Welcome, good afternoon. So here we are for T-level transition, technical focus group. So we're going to call you, we refer to you as delivery one. So basically that's because we're expecting that you're coming here with a bit of a digital NTO bent, but also to discuss your delivery, having been involved for the past couple of years. So that's what we're here for. In terms of, before I go into slides, it might just be worthwhile to go around the room. I'll say a quick hello to those of you who don't know me, and it would be great if you could introduce yourself and just say a tiny little bit about where you are and how you've got on with your digital implementation of NTOs. Debbie, we're just on to intros. So I'm Romy Short, facilitator for the session, worked primarily on the digital NTOs, but also mirrored that with T-levels and with the legal finance and accounting and a variety of others. So it's great to see how you've got on with your digital NTOs over the past year or two. We've got Nick. Nick, do you want to say hello?
Hi, I'm a T-level advisor for the AOC. I've been working for the AOC for 6 months. Most of my providers are based in and around London.
And we've got Abby in the background as well. Abby really isn't in the background, she's in the foreground because Abby makes everything happen in technology-wise. So if you hear me say, oh, Abby, can we just have? That's what happens. So I'm going to go round from my bottom left. So I've got Wahid, then and then I'm going to work my way up. I know Wahid isn't with us for the whole of the session. Do you want to just say a quick hello and where you're from, Wahid?
Oh, hi guys. I'm Wahid. I'm from Nelson and Corn College. I teach on the level 2 digital here in the college. It's the first year that we're doing the transition program, and yeah, so far it's gone really well. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm going to move over to Rob next, please.
Hiya, I'm Rob Woodward. I teach at Heart of Worcestershire College. I've been teaching on the level 2 BTEC since, well, this year. I've been working closely alongside my colleagues who have delivered the T-level programme, and we're looking at ways to better prepare the level 2s moving up to the T-levels, because what we've discovered so far is that there is a bit of a jump for our current level 2 students. So we're looking at ways to make the transition easier for those students.
Yeah, okay, Rob, that echoes with some of the things that people have said as well. I'm going to ask Sarah next to come and say a quick hello.
Oh, hi everyone. Actually, I've been so keen to book onto a training session, but we actually haven't started to deliver the transition or the T-levels until September. So I don't know whether I can still stay on the webinar and just learn a bit more about people's experiences.
Of course you can stay on, we'll allow that.
Great, lovely. So I'll just listen to everyone else and that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Debbie?
Hi there, everybody. I'm Debbie Wood. I'm from Grantham in Lincolnshire. I've been teaching BTEC Level 2 Information and Creative Technology for the past 10 years. And before that, GMVQs, blah, blah, blah. So I've been doing it for a while. We've found, or I have found it quite difficult for this transition program to try and get it up motivated. I found that with the expectation T-levels, this is our first year of running T-levels, and there's a massive jump really from the level 2 to level 3, which is the usual from like GCSEs onto A-levels. So there's a kind of similar big kind of jump that they got to. From a cohort of 5, I think probably 3 will get onto the T-level. The other 2 are going to have a sideways move, I'm afraid, because they're not good enough.
Yeah, actually, that's really interesting because that's one of the questions that we were going to go to at the end. So we'll hold that for the discussion later. Yeah, Roz.
Hello everybody, my name is Ros Hicks and I'm Head of Area for Media, Business and Digital Industries at City College Norwich, which means I don't teach on any of the T-levels, but I do run and look after digital and business T-levels and maybe media in the long term, but definitely not in the short term. That means we were an early adopter of digital in 2020, where we ran the DPDD first off, and that's where I first met Romy, probably 4 years ago now, probably I'd have thought, when we were preparing to launch in COVID in 2020. We didn't initially run a transitions for the digital course. We kept with the level 2 BTEC, but for the last 2 academic years, this academic year being the second year, we have run we call it pre-T here because it's preparation for T-level, so we call it pre-T. So we run a pre-T in digital and a pre-T is in its first year for the business courses. I know we're not talking about that today, but just as to give you some hindsight of where we are. And obviously the first year of transitions for the digital provision, there was no framework, there wasn't anything in particular to guide us. It was just getting them ready for a T-level. So we continue to run the BTEC level 2, information creative technology, but now we've got the framework. We teach the framework and we do a qualification, and I'm just finding it, and I'll report back when I found it as to what we do to deliver that provision. But equally, same as Debbie, pre-T students are level 2. They're not T-level, or might not ever be T-level students. Some are, but not all. So, and that is a concern for us moving forward, because I believe that if you've completed a T-level transition in one subject area, so digital, you can't then do another one in engineering the year after. So what do we do with these 17-year-olds who are not eligible for anything? And because very much here at my college, it is T-level and nothing else. So I now have no alternatives in business or digital at all except T-level or pre-T.
It makes a nonsense really of, sort of where you've got a perfectly good level 3 BTEC that, those students could probably infill. And I think, we've got another couple of years of that. So why can they not go on to there, and it's trying to get this information up to SLT.
So we will later, when we talk about sort of progression, what really happens, we'll make sure that we get those notes, and you can see that we're recording, and hopefully you all clicked yes, because me and Ross will know, and some of you around the room as well, that sometimes we do have the department sitting in on these, but we'll make sure that the report gets back to Julie, and and we can feed into those policy issues. Right, okay, so I'm going to just share a few slides with you. Sarah, I'm going to say these are mainly for you. They're not really, they're just helpful. This is where we are. So it's just to make sure that we're all at the same point then. So basically, that second bullet there, we'll just have a quick look at the usual, I call it the donut and the Venn diagram. So Sarah, you'll get used to the terminology there, but we'll have a look at that. And then just to get some experiences of delivering TLTP from yourselves, and particularly in digital, although I recognise that Ross goes right across the curriculum areas there. One of the things that we wanted to look at, and you've alluded to it, was around student profile and the NTOs, and you've already said that some of you are using BTECs to support you, or maybe bits units to support you in the delivery of the NTOs, or maybe to enhance them. We'll have a look at monitoring as well. We've also got a variety of resources on the AOC Padlet, and I'll be able to point you to those. So these will help you as you start in September as well. So we were going to go into breakout rooms, but we're not now, because we haven't just because we're a small select group. Okay, so that's what we're going to do then this afternoon. Segue into. So hopefully you'll get a chance to share your experiences of delivering TLTP, and again, how student review, how student progress is monitored. So even if you only started last September, we'll have a look at work in progress there as well. And hopefully, Ros, you're beginning to be my bestie on these things. Hopefully you'll be able to contribute about evaluation, yeah, and how you've got on over the years. Let's have a look at then. So this is just a reminder. Sarah, if you want me to stop at any points, then do. You need a bit more explanation here, but this is a reminder for the rest of us. So basically, yes, the purpose of the TLTP is to prepare students. Notice we've got primarily there the progression onto their chosen T-level route. So that is the purpose of the TLTP. So when we're talking about NTOs, it should be no surprise that what we've got there is mirrors and matches the T-level content. So in terms of principles, I'll let you read those. Obviously you don't need me to, but I'll just pick up on that last bullet there about helping students to make the right decision what to do after the programme. And we've already noted that that is a dilemma for some of you in terms of, Debbie, you said your conversion, 3 out of your 5 onto T-level. So we'll hold that thought and then come back to it. But there is a recognition, and that's fine at department level, that not all students will go on to do a T-level, but it needs to be seen in the wider picture of what provision is there. Okay, so here we've got what students can expect. So the finalised framework for delivery that we're now using, rather than that early embryonic one that we worked on all those years ago. There are 5 key areas that students can expect to support them in their preparation for T-level. And you can see there the donut there in the colours. So you've got that bright pink, top left there, positive attitude and behaviours. So there's all those behaviours that really give students the confidence to push on, to progress. So it's about developing behaviours. But also we know that the key, and Wahid, I'm not picking on you, but I know that English, Maths and Digital, dark blue, that is one of Nelson and Cole's real strengths, in that they lead with English, Maths and Digital, and the rest of the programme is built around that. And that's what students can expect to help push them on there for their English and Maths.
Yeah,
now,
sorry, that's right. Yeah, we are we heavily get our level 2 learners to right from the very beginning, we actually tell them that as well as doing the level 2, the focus is to get their English and Maths up to date, as well as their digital skills as well. So yeah, we are quite hot on that as well. It's in our framework, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and it's sort of that's what's right for certain organisations, sort of isn't right for all. So but that's a real strength with Nelson and Cole there. Students can also expect that skills for successful study. So in there, we've got wrapped up about learning to learn, revision techniques, the whole metacognition aspect there. So somewhere in your programme, even if you don't come across it in terms of, or you contribute to it in terms of digital, you will you'll find that there is that provision there for students as well. Now in the bottom there, we've got knowledge and skills for the workplace. So students can expect experience of the workplace, and I always put an emphasis on this because I know it's really hard finding employers. So in terms of transition program, experience of the workplace rather than a placement or work experience. So that's involving employers in the variety of ways that that colleges are so successful out there. And then we've got our industry relevant technical knowledge and skills. So the so this is the NTOs. So this is where the national technical outcomes sit, but also in that space there is the route-based project. I'm going to leave it there. So if you need anything when we get into discussion, we can build on that. So look at it from the other perspective then. So what should providers be delivering? Now you'll notice that all the way through the framework, it's we've got phrases like providers are expected to deliver, minimum requirements. So this is for you and how to structure your program there. So interestingly, I'm just going to focus on, it's sort of a mirror really of the 5 key themes. Here we've got 6 components, but I'm going to focus on the diagnostic because we're going to look at that today. And you can see there that's sort of at the end of the rugby ball, one end of the rugby ball, and that feeds through diagnostics right at the beginning, feeding through during the program and at the end as well. So, and also we're going to focus on today, we're going to see where our technical knowledge and skills sit and how you've got on over the past year. One thing that I did want to just remind ourselves before we move on was that each of those circles, each of the balls can be squashed, or they can be skinned down or fattened up, weighted however you see fit for your students. So in your 580 guided learning hours, as long as you deliver the minimum requirements, you can shape those hours to the needs of your students. But just remember, there is a statement somewhere in the framework for delivery around the expectation that technical knowledge and skills should be no more than half of the 580. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a perspective, but also bearing in mind that the NTOs are designed to be about 120 to 150 guided learning hours. So it does leave you some space to do other stuff. Yep, and each of you, I expect each of your colleges will decide how much emphasis that is needed on the NTOs and how much, I suppose, freedom really that you have to flex there. Okay, we're not going to do this in groups. We're going to work together. So in terms of, Sarah, this is your opportunity to ask questions, and this is our opportunity to talk here. So those of you that started last year, then having a look at the student cohort, was it as you expected there? I'll give you a little time to think. Yeah, I'm going to come out of these questions, but just remember, we're going to go through, was the student cohort as expected? Lots to discuss there in terms of, you know, the profile, entry requirements, etc. So second question, to what extent have you been able to incorporate the core KSBs, so the rest of the programme, into your technical knowledge and skills components? So have you adopted that holistic strategy? And then also, how do NTOs feature in your delivery? Yeah, so we're looking, we're reflecting backwards there. So the first one then, was the student cohort as expected? You've touched on this already. I'm going to, who wants to go first? Debbie, did you want to come in on that? Because I know, yeah, you were going, no.
Yeah, right, okay, so level 2s are a particular animal, aren't they? They've not done particularly well at school. This is their opportunity to get a second bite of the cherry so that they can do maths and English alongside, along with building up the confidence for approximately 9 hours a week. So we took the students on, and to be fair, they were a mixed bunch.
So these are those that specially wanted to do digital, yeah?
Yes, but they didn't get
Yeah.
the qualifications to get on the
Yeah.
T level, so
Yeah.
we knock them down. So we knock them down onto, but if they didn't have at least the grade 3s, then they went on to our other program, which is a lower level, which is building their confidence up, which is the R2E program, which is
Yeah,
Routes to
yeah.
Employability. And we have a cohort then from that particular group that infill with our level 2 transition group.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have many enroll at all, and I had one drop out due to one thing and another, out of their control. So we kind of ended up with a little group of 4 left. The problem is, for me, is that they cut my hours right down. So the delivery of the units that I plucked from the information and creative technology, done online world, so that kind of met a lot of KSBs.
Mhm.
I did not learn about these KSBs till just after Christmas. I threw the toys out the pram. And then I've had to cut down the units because you've got a real cross section of the certificate that allow you to infill with the KSBs, because there's a mapping document on Pearson's which is really helpful.
Mhm.
However, that's the certificate, and the extended certificate are for 9 hours plus a week. They've cut me down to 6. So that means that really I'm doing the award.
Okay. So can I
but the award has no map over for networking, because that's cut off the award, because what we wanted is that if they did not achieve, they would come out with a couple of qualifications. So the award IT one is what they would come out with, but also we do a work skills qualification as well, and that's for about 3 or 4 hours. So that is a big chunk. Next year there's going to be a lot of thought on, and I think they're giving it all back to the vocational areas to kind of do as we will, because at the moment they're just not, there's not been joined up thinking, in my opinion, but that's just me talking. I'll be happy to kind of hear how the others have kind of got on and thought their corner.
So just in terms of student profile for the minute, so you had grade 3 as your entry requirement, yeah. I heard you there say her. So I'm looking at the mix that you've got there. Did you have a good balance between female and?
Yes, we did. We had 2 female, 3 male.
Yeah, that's because that was one of the questions that the department were asking actually, about gender balance. So, and their aspirations there, you were saying that they really did want to move to go on to a T level.
They do,
yeah.
but they've just, some of them just not got the ability.
So, I'll come on to how your curriculum time was squeezed. You were talking there about English, maths and digital, and sort of like mapping. So is that so that's dealt with elsewhere, is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So that's out of my jurisdiction, as it were. I'm the vocational bit, and then we've got the work skills that comes under another teacher, which I don't have a lot of control over, and they have all the transition groups together. So we've got engineering, IT, health and social care, and then construction, I think, are in there as well. It's a bit of a nightmare. They've had to actually split the group up because it got quite unmanageable. And then they also have opportunities to do maths and English as well. So there's maths and English kind of built in for doing GCSEs, and those are again preset timetables. So I actually have to build my program around maths and English because they're immovable objects.
Yeah, yeah. Wahid, I'm going to ask you to come in because I know you have to leave soon. And in terms of your recruitment, student profile, was that as you expected?
I think we got a little bit more students this year. So Nelson and Corn College, I don't know if you know, but we've taken over Accrington College as well. So we've got 2 colleges. It's part of the Nelson group. So this year we have recruited 30 students altogether across both sites. 1 dropped out, so currently we've got 29, and out of the 29 students, I would say I think there's about 5 who are going on to the T level next year. The entry requirements to get onto the level 2 for us is you need 3 GCSEs at grade 4 or above, including English or maths. Out of the 29 students, we've got 2 girls and the rest are all male.
So I'm asking this question just while I've got you, even though it's supposed to be a question later. But so you've said that you've got 5 going on to the T level from your 29.
5 who we feel
Oh, right. Okay.
that can go on to the T level. The others are not capable of the T level. We don't think, but our level 3, we've got 2 routes on our level 3. We've got the T level route, and we've got the BTEC level 3 digital route. So the rest of them will be going down the level 3 route.
Yeah, so I've just got engineers in the background, which is noise, but so yeah, I did ask that deliberately because it's something around their aspirations, really, isn't it? If you're thinking, yeah, you've got the 29 on, be great to find how they get on at the end of this year. I'll make a note and ask your advisor Wahid to come back and let us know, you know, the final numbers. But yeah, real dilemma there. Rob. And are you offering this year, running it this year, are you, the digital TLTP?
Yeah, so this year what the college offered was they removed the BTEC level 3, concentrated on just the T level and the level 2. The college have made the decision from the way it's run this year is that they're actually going to bring back the BTEC level 3. Just because they haven't had the numbers on the T levels that they thought they were going to get. And again, it's evident from our current crop of level 2s that going on to the T level would not be suitable for them in the majority. So yeah, it's just been announced that my college is going to bring back the BTEC level 3 in computing.
So I missed that. So what did in terms of numbers, so how many did you get on your TLTP this year?
The number, because we're based over a couple of campuses. I'm currently at Worcester. We on one course we had 4 students, and the college have felt that that's just too low to be able to run that from September onwards.
Yeah, got it. Ross, do you want to just come in and give a bit about how you've got on at City?
Yeah, sure. God, Rob, I wish they'd bring back BTEC here. It's an absolute no-no, with the argument being, if it's to 2025, what are you going to say?
I know.
When it is gone, you know, it's just really difficult. The staff would love it as well. They want it back, but it's, I don't know. Anyway, that's very, very interesting to hear that. So currently at the moment, I have 23. No, I don't. I'm lying. 20. That's 23 on T level. TBD. I have 20 students on my T level transitions provision. Our entry requirements are they need to have 5 GCSEs, grade 3 and above, one of which should be English or maths, and if it's a maths at grade 4, we then put them in for grade 5 anyway, so that they can improve and move it up, even though that's no longer a condition of funding, it is a condition of progression. So therefore, but also long term, and they want to go to university, there's very, very few university courses in computing or software engineering that don't ask for a 5 in GCSE maths. So therefore, if you allow someone to a T level without a grade 5, long term, you are actually restricting their progression journey all the way through. So that's our entry requirements for T level. They should have English or maths, preferably at a grade 4, but hopefully they've got some 3s there as well. We teach, I've got 20 in the group, 18 males, a female and a transgender, and then who's non-binary, so doesn't classify with any gender. So I don't know, I just got to put that in. We'd have 15.5 hours a week of taught lessons. 1 hour of that is tutorial. 2 hours of that is other parts of the donut, like work readiness, resilience, mental health, etc. And then the rest is curriculum time, which incorporates the national technical outcomes. I found it, we deliver our level 2 diploma from Gateway in digital and IT skills, and the units we cover in that are computer programming, cybersecurity, data management and analytics, database design, digital skills, career progression, digital skills project, which some of that we use for the route-based project, IT tech support, mobile app development, spreadsheet software and development. So all of the units offer progression to any of the digital T levels, because we run DPDD here, and we also run digital support services, which this year is infrastructure, but next year could be just straight support services and cybersecurity.
So really interesting, Ros, that you said that. And Sarah, I'm going to bring you in a minute just to so you can offer some thoughts about, you know, sort of like what we've said so far. But in terms of what you've chosen there, you know, very strategic in terms of, can you remember when we were saying what we wanted to go in the NTOs in the first place? And that was, you know, sort of that mix was both to support the progression, but also to give that foundation. So yeah, that's yeah, really interesting, the units that you've chosen from Gateway. Sarah, thoughts around that in terms of who you might recruit for next year and what the issues are? And
it's just really, it's so interesting just listening to everyone's experiences, actually, because until we go through that, it's difficult. And it's interesting because I wasn't aware actually that once you've done one transition course, then you couldn't progress on to another one. So that's a bit of useful information. And we're in the process of looking at which qualification to offer as part of our transition. So that's where we are in our journey. So it was interesting just picking up on, because I'd looked at the BTEC one, which I think a lot of providers are offering, but I hadn't looked at the level 2 Gateway one. So I will go away and have a look at that one as well. I think it just seems like there's quite a lot of work to do for the transition program as well, sort of preparation as much so as what there seems to be for the T level as well. And it's interesting from what other people are saying is about that sort of progression, that not many learners are progressing onto a T level, and you know, what will they do for their next steps, really?
yeah. So I'm not ignoring that. I'm going to move on because coming up towards 4 o'clock, I want to move into something else. But in terms of Debbie put this in the chat there around core KSBs. Yeah, so we've got let's have a look. So Debbie, just one of our questions was the extent to which core KSBs can be incorporated, and you've asked the oh right, okay, thanks Ross for getting that in the chat as well. So thoughts around Debbie introduced earlier about separate lessons, how you evidence the coverage there, anything that you do differently next year, that whole KSBs, you know, in your separate department. Debbie, thoughts around that then?
I think it was clear that the extended certificate or the you know, for information and creative technology didn't really map over particularly well. You needed to make sure that you chose the right units. However,
I'm not sure.
for them to get a qualification, we had to kind of focus on particular units, and it didn't marry very well at all. Although I'm, you know, so reluctant to let go of the information creative technology certificate, because I quite like it, because everything's there and I've taught it for years. And again, it's like dipping your toe into the water then to something completely fresh and new. And it's hard if you're getting restrictions from your hours, the way that you're supposed to run it, and you feel like you're not doing a good enough job, to be honest. I have looked at Gateway and I felt that Gateway did map over a lot better for the KSBs, and I am pushing towards having that one. I mean, sort of, so what he'd put in about the NCFE level 2 certificate in coding. So again, there's something in there that we could probably pop in. So it's probably us getting off our backsides really and thinking about different qualifications that we could merge together. One of the things that we've done today, and it was a infill with my public services, my T level and my transition group. We actually had RAF Digby come in today doing cyber attack stuff. So that was quite interesting. So they, you know, they were really, he was really interested and the kids really on the whole mostly engaged, you know, because he had little sort of kind of competition for them, and they all got into it.
Yeah. Okay, shall we segue into that conversation then and follow through with qualifications in your delivery strategy? Because yeah, and then we'll pick up on. So in theory, you could have up to half of your 580 GLH. Now you've heard that Debbie's been, sorry, half of your 580. So you've heard that Debbie's been like really squeezed with specialist time there for digital. So I'm going to go Wahid, and I think you're going, aren't you, in about 10 minutes. In terms of qual for the NTOs, do you use one? I've gone already. Yeah, I knew we had to go soon. Rob, do you use a qual for your NTO delivery?
As I said, I don't teach on it myself.
All right.
Because I'm on the level 2s again this year, but working with the side by side with the people that are doing it, I couldn't quite tell you exactly the details, I'm afraid, of exactly what it is they're doing. I can tell you numbers and how it's gone and things, but I'm sorry to say I don't know exactly.
Okay, no worries then. So, and we've got from Ross, you've got 15.5 hours, did you say, for yours? Yeah.
Yeah, 15.5 hours, of which 12 of that is National Technical Outcomes qualification curriculum. The rest is the kind of wider transferable holistic skills, and a proper tutorial every week, an hour-long tutorial taught.
Yeah. Would you continue using the quals? I know, Debbie, you said you might think of doing something different, but would you continue using those quals next year?
I think the answer is we'll continue using something, whether it remains that, because that's quite a beefy qual. That's 450-hour GLH, so it's quite beefy. So whether we would reduce that and just do a slightly lesser model than the full diploma, but I think I've been teaching so long, I'm like 27 years I've been at this for, right? And I got a real thing about students not having something on their CV for a year that is something they could use or have some currency later on in life. Or if they don't move to a T level, it's going to say, well, I did a T level transitions. I don't, unless there's a lot of work done with employers to understand what that is, and there isn't a qualification attached to it. And if they say, well, what did you learn on? Well, that differs from what they were learnt down the road at this college. They learnt this. It's just like, so I'd rather have a quali attached, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
don't know whether other centres would feel the same, but I'm still going to deliver something that they can have on their CV at the end of the year, which hopefully matches as best they can the NTOs and their future routes after that.
Yeah, that's really useful. The latter point there, Ros, about matching the NTOs and also their aspirations and where they're heading next. I know we've got record, but notes help as well. I'm going to show you this. I'm just going to share with, and I don't know if you've seen these resources, but let's have a look at. Right. Go back into. Right, let's see if this will help, or if I'm just going to be stuck on my slides forever now. Right, okay, there we go. There, right. So have you seen these? So, Abby, if we could have the Padlet chat, sorry, the Padlet link in the chat, that would be great, and then people can use these and refer to them later. Just as we wrote these on behalf of the Department for Education, so with the AOC. So it's just something that you might find useful as you're moving into next year. So this is around student profiles for transition. That's that one. And what else? I wanted you to have a takeaway. This one, okay. This one might help as well. So here are the core KSBs. When you're doing your mapping of the NTOs and how you can incorporate those right across. So that might be something, and again, this is AOC resource. And Sarah, you might find that. We're not going to work on it today, but I just wanted to point you to the high level. It's called this one, obviously, there you go, TLTP components. I don't know if you can see that far up my screen there. But have a look in the Padlet area, which you should have in the chat. And I think there were just those two that I thought were useful. Yeah. Okay, so there were just those two. So there's the one on the mapping of the core skills to the knowledge, skills and behaviours there, and then there's the other one about student profile. So have a look at those. So where we are then. So student cohort wasn't as expected, and what I hear coming through a little bit, I think, is around your thoughts on, is it just because of COVID and the experience, or is it something around what we're expecting now of level 2s and moving on, and their ability to be able to move on to level 3? And recognising the demands of the T level, which is high, isn't it? I mean, it's level 3. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you want a quick break before we move on to the next topic area? Do you want, yeah. Okay, so we're at 10:02. So shall we come back on the hour? Yeah, will that give you all time to get to where you need to be? And yeah, okay. So I'll see you back at 4 then. So we're moving on to second topic area to share. There we go. So that's what I want. Sarah, this is from, you can see my little note to myself down at the bottom there. Yeah, the framework for delivery, page 14 to 16. So have a read of this. But if you remember the, there we go, the Venn diagram. You can see there, this is, we're going to touch on diagnostic monitoring and guidance there. So let's go into, okay. So this is the expectations there. So at the beginning of the programme, you're expected as providers to identify students' learning, development, pastoral support needs. So that might not be you, but obviously your team will be feeding into that. So there is that expectation that there is that initial diagnostic process going on. Then there's a requirement as well for ongoing monitoring of students' progress to ensure that they're receiving appropriate support to successfully complete. So you can see my emphasis there on successfully complete, because I think that, and I don't know if Ros was there in this session, but there is sometimes this, well, what do they need to do to get to the end of it? You know, what is successful completion? So have a think about that, because we're going to pick up on that as well in a moment. So, and then, so we've got the diagnostics at the beginning. We've got the ongoing, the during, but then in terms of, and again, so this is still page 14 to 16 of the FFD. So you've still got the expectation of regular review of student progress right across the programme. And there's some suggestions there. Oh, Debbie's shaking her head through one-to-one tutorials. Now, whether that's you or whether that's your colleagues, there's the expectation as well that students receive clear feedback. And you'll notice there reflective practice, and you'll see that those of you that teach into T levels as well, that there is that there is always somewhere in every T level that the reflection and review, and that comes out in the employer set project and in some of the OS requirements, the occupational specialism requirements as well. So that's building upon this in the TLTP. And then support and signposting to specialist support where needed. Okay, so now, and you might not have actually seen that so explicitly set out, and I know that Debbie, you were shaking your head there. So I'm just going to come out of that. I've got some questions that I can go back into in a moment, but I'm just going to come out of that just to share what your diagnostics are then.
Right, so for us, they come on to the course, part of their induction, they do dyslexia tests, they do sort of, if there's any ECHP, then that is reviewed to make sure that they're getting the support that they need. And if we do need any learning support within the classroom, then we have it on the whole, but not all the time, because obviously, like most colleges, we are short of learning support. Then with the support, in the years past, I had the tutorial. Okay, so then I identified any particular any extra needs and everything, then I could support the students and sort of reflect on how well they were doing. That was a little bit more one-to-one. That has now been taken off us. That is now with our student mentor, who probably sees them 3 times a year. All right, that's rubbish, in my opinion.
I know, yeah.
But that now hopefully is coming back to us next year. They know that it's not working properly. So that is actually coming back to us. The personal development has also been delivered on ad hoc, one size fits all. That's coming back to us as well, so we can make more links to the IT industry that they want to join. So we can sort of, take a little bit more control of that. So when it comes to actually monitoring what they're doing, obviously we're setting the assignments in the old kind of BTEC format.
Yep.
So they get the feedback on whether they've done all right, and we use the BTEC rules as normal. So they only get like 2 bites of the cherry, or else they're on a level 1. So that means if they come out with a level 1, then they're going to be stuffed, because they won't be able to progress onto the T level. They're not going to be strong enough. With the exam, out of the cohort for the transition course, they all passed, but probably with a level 1, there was no level 2s amongst them. Whereas the R2E group, the guys that fit in fill with us, they got level 2 passes, but no merits, you know, and it's very rare that I don't get at least a couple of merits. I never had a distinction, but at least a couple of merits. So, but you can put it down to COVID, you know, the fact is they've not had that grounding for the last 2-3 years to kind of become more well-rounded. So we are at my level at the moment getting a lot of kids that just can't learn. And it's been really tough. And at the moment, I'm not seeing a solution being presented to me.
Yeah. Rob, in terms of, I know you don't teach on this particular programme, but are you getting any sort of like feedback on any conversations in the staff room or with your team around particular difficulties with you?
Yes. So what our college does is in the September, well, they've changed it every year for the last couple of years, but last year they used something called 4 skills to determine what level they were at. Our maths and English departments then come over and do mini tests with them. But to answer your question about who checks on their progress throughout the year, our college is really good. We've got a pastoral team. In every department, we have what we call personal tutors, and it's their job to make sure that they're academically and pastorally on track, and then they're supported by personal learning coaches, and then we've got in-class support as well. So I will say what is good in this college is the wraparound care that's provided, and we also have like meetings to air any issues we've got, and we've got a good online system where we put any concerns on something called Pro Monitor, and then we can tag in relevant staff if we're concerned about students falling behind, etc. But yeah, just to kind of, as I think everybody said, it's the students we have mostly that come up to our level 2 come from an internal level 1 course in the college. And the problem is we're looking at is on the level 1 course, they can do 6 assignments per year. And then they come up to us at level 2 and they can easily do 6 assignments per term. And that is a huge jump. And we need to look at a way to bridge between level 1 to level 2 before they even think about T level, and that's where it's fallen down for us this year.
Yeah. Okay. Good learning points. Thanks, Rob. I'm going to go into our official questions now. So I'll just share what we've got with you. Go back into this one, okay? So this is what we've got for you now to focus our discussion on, to focus your review. Now we've sort of implied this as we've gone along around successfully complete, because that was one of the in the framework for delivery, and the exact phrase was around successful completion, wasn't it? Yeah, ensuring students successfully complete. So just a few thoughts how you deem that your students have successfully completed. Yeah, and it might be around the sort of the success of the qualification. We touched on it a little bit about formative assessment, so we'll come back to that, and that should give you some ideas of what you want to repeat for next year, or even, Sarah, what you want to put in place. And then how are your students able to demonstrate achievement of each of the outcomes? Because really the expectation is around achieving the 3 outcomes in the digital NTOs, but obviously you're using the qual for a delivery. Okay, so we've got 3 areas there. So successful completion, what's our definition? Formative assessment, and then I suppose the evidence, really, that's that last one. Okay, so yeah, so how do you judge successful completion? Yeah, is Rosie, you coming in, or are you still? No, you're on another call. No, it's not coming through. You look like you're off mute, but it's just not coming through, the sound. Right, okay. Rosie's going to now use the chat, and you've got your microphone as well in front of you've not got that on your head. So okay, leave and then come back. Yeah, so we'll wait till Ros comes back in, because I know she was going to come in there with her definition of successful completion. So so I'm going to go to Debbie. Successful completion, what's your definition? There's no right and wrong, it's just how you're.
I know. I mean, for me, successful completion would be, sort of handing in the work, the assignments that we require, and they fulfill the criteria. Another successful completion could be that you would look at their starting point and what they've achieved at their finish point, and then if there's a positive difference, then they've been successful. And again, I think sometimes where you would look at a kid that's started off really meek and mild, but then starts to smile, starts to contribute, starts to engage a bit more. For me, that's also success, but that's harder to measure apart from what you kind of see within the classroom environment.
Yeah,
I'll be interested to see what Ros says.
So Ros, we had 3 things there. I think you missed the first one just as you were coming back in. One was around criteria that have been set, sort of more around work ethic, how they the students met the assignments and the criteria that goes with them. The second, which I think is just when you were coming in there, was around a positive difference, sort of like starting point, end point, and positive difference. And then that third one was more around confidence. Yeah, so
can you hear me now?
yes.
Hey, I don't know what happened there. Sorry, must have gone to sleep over the break or something. And I'm sorry it's a bit late. I had a phone call from Mother's District Nurse. Long story. Anyway, so was the first one about how we measure success?
Yeah, your definition of success. Sort of how for your college. Your department. Yeah.
Well, I think for us it's a little bit easier because you run a qualification. I think it would be harder if you didn't, because if not, your NTOs are going to turn into a tick sheet, and then you're going to look at the kind of the other aspects of that, and that's going to turn into a tick sheet as well. And yes, you could produce a college certificate perhaps of achievement, but you wouldn't really have anything to base it on. And I suppose one of the reasons we chose that Gateway one was because it covered nearly all of it covers all the NTOs certainly, but it also prepares a young person for their next steps in September and hopefully onto a digital T-level. And anything we felt we didn't cover on the NTOs, we would set a project about, because at the end of the day, the students do as they're told mostly, and they don't really know which units count or which assignments count and which ones don't. But also you've got the route-based project to try and pick up anything else you might not have managed to cover in that NTO part of it. So it's, and it is quite holistic, but it's also, if you've got a qual running, whatever the size, you can use that as your official kind of success criteria. So formative assessment is ongoing. We have year-long, that Gateway qual's quite busy, so there's lots of assignments going on with that. So that's completely built in for that. And what was the last one, Romy? Sorry, I forgot.
Oh no, we haven't got there yet. So
right, okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one. So Hopefully, Sarah, you were getting those notes down, because there was a lot in there between Debbie and Rosa's response there. But one of the things that I wanted to pull out was the so all with the NTOs, and that's your area, so that's great. But it's the do the students have to have met specific attributes? Because in the NTOs, you know, we've got some behaviours there at the bottom in the box, haven't we? So, you know, and Debbie, you touched on that with that, you know, sort of, I mean, you said it's smiling, personable, but that sort of falls under that attributes sort of area. So I don't know if that's something that, you know, sort of you incorporate within your feedback, your conversations with students.
And we call it professional behaviours for work. So therefore, it's not only demonstrating that you can pass things, it's those softer skills. So attendance, punctuality, if they have a placement or if they're engaging with any kind of employer, do they regularly turn up for that? Are they dressed appropriately? Are they on time for that? Do they display appropriate behaviours with any external people they happen to be working with? But it's also things like teamwork, attitude to learning, meeting deadlines. I'm struggling to think now because it's 4:20 on a Monday, but those kinds of work-based professional skills, yeah.
Yeah. So so then the other thing, Rob, at Worcester, anything that at high level that you think is important about that successful completion that you might use?
I think what we're good at here, like I said, is communication, and all the students' grades are put up as they're going along, so they can see how they're progressing. What I found this year is, whether again it's COVID, I'm not sure, but just the basics of deadlines has been a real struggle, to the point where I've left some lessons and I'm thinking, you know, is it me? So we've got the level 1 fallback option from a level 2, and unfortunately I think this year we're going to see a rise in the number of students that are going to go for the level 1 fallback. There just seems to be this year and a little bit last year just there's no fear of the consequences of missing at work or not doing their best ability. There's a lot of distractions that I'm finding. We like I said, the way we test it though, how they're moving, how they're going through the year, is we have the tutor has 2 weekly meetings with every student. I have one-to-one meetings with all my students to see progression. But by now, as we approach Easter, we know who's going to pass and who isn't going to pass, and who might be ready for the T level. So we're getting the picture building now as we speak.
So Rob, when you talk about grades,
yeah,
what do you use as grade?
So like I said, at the moment, we've still got the BTEC level 2, and we grade pass merit distinction, as I think Debbie said. But we've got this level 1 fallback option, which is if they don't quite get the full level 2 pass, we can at least give them a level 1 qualification to walk away with. And I've just noticed that a high number of students, especially ones that have come from a level 1 course already, that they are just going to remain on that level 1 course, and this is the worry for us, that they're just not ready for T levels, and that is obviously the concern for our college.
Yeah. And so Debbie's saying that, you know, sort of, well, you know, they won't progress, you know, sort of, is that, yeah, that's the ceiling there. I'm going to flip the formative assessment one then, and just come back to, would you do anything differently next year? Because we had a bullet around formative assessment approaches. So, yeah, would you do anything differently next year?
A lot more joined up thinking, you know, so and then plan a lot better. You know, there's been a distinct lack of planning on how it's going to meet. I wasn't introduced to the KSBs. I had no clue that they were there until just after Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just have to be, you know, sort of you know, where they can, you know, do something, you know, where it's more joined up. And I know it's supposed to be holistic. I know it's supposed to be able to kind of hang something on, but we need development time to do that as well. And then sort of actually sitting down with relevant people, uninterrupted, to actually do something, you know. And I mean, we've kind of put together some of the units that we've got to think about next year. But we kind of, well, if we stick with Pearson's, then we're going to have the double-edged sword where we're going to have our EV. If we go for the award, I think that's not funded anymore. So they might not let us do that. And it's getting my line manager, etc., on board to ensure that we're not bullied into doing something that I know is not working.
Yeah, yeah. So that there's that whole, yes, it loud coming through really loudly that yes, we would do it different. Ros, and you've been through this a few times already,
I
haven't
have
you?
been through this a few times, and I think there has to be an appreciation higher up the scale, like what Debbie said earlier, that if you're preparing learners for T-level and they are your traditional level 2, not a T-level near miss, then you need time to do that. It's almost if you need like a lead for this provision across your college or school, whereby they kind of look after all of the T-level transition provision, and they look at coordinating that centrally, because it might be that you've got a really good teacher on T-level transition manufacturing and does a really good session on or module on work readiness that could be delivered across it all to for effort. And I think if level 2 qualifications are going to be defunded more than currently are, and if we're moving to an apprenticeship T-level or AAQ environment as in 2 years' time, there does need to be a little bit more of a holistic thought about what this is going to look like and appropriateness of courses for young people. But I've actually sitting here now thinking maybe reduce the qualification that we run in hours and specialize more in those national technical outcome topics and preparation for T-level in a wider field and moving it forward like that, perhaps. Plus English and maths on top. That has to be included in that as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So did you?
The other issue, obviously, we get, as a college, we get them in at 16. Okay. So they've not done particularly well. So they've gone on to our R2E program. So by the time they come onto the transition, they're 17. They've not done particularly well. Then they've got another year of trying to up their grades. That means the T-level, they are not going to be able to go on because they are 19.
Yeah.
And they're not going to progress any further onto the T-level because of their age. So where do we put those? So at the moment, we're looking at access to HE for 19 plus and actually setting up a computing strand that we have here at college. So we've got to go through moderation in May. So hopefully we'll have a 19 plus program for people to go on. So then they can get onto university. The other thing is that, do we go sideways? Do we have another qualification that kind of comes in? And again, I think, it's got to come from the top down. Yes, we can look at it and say, this is what we need, but unless we get that support top down, we will not make proper progress.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just pick up on Ros, you answered the third bullet without even remembering it actually there. So there's that, first of all, there were two things. The senior management support, that came through from both Debbie and yourself, and that investment there. But in terms of the last bullet, I was challenging you around, sort of demonstrating achievement in each of the outcomes of the route. And you've talked about, as a group, using qualifications to do that. But one thing that you reflected on there, Ros, was around spending more time on the NTOs potentially, and then infilling with other qual provision there.
Yeah, potentially. I think although we've done units that are specifically aligned to not only the NTOs, but also the different pathways a young person can choose from, I don't know, maybe we just need to focus a little bit more rather than make it wider, maybe reduce it down so that more students or young people can access the curriculum, because there is, you know, a big divide between who we've got on our T level and who will progress to the who are on our pre-2 and who will progress to T level. It is not as good in business. It's worse in business in terms of progression. I think we've got, out of our group of 20, we've got 3, but at least in the IT it's more than that. So we are getting there, but this is our second year through, and we learn all the time about what to do, you know, to make it better.
So I would have thought, actually, and Rob, I don't know if you've got any sort of like figures from, because you work cross subject areas.
It's gone to see a parent, Rome, if you read the chat.
Oh right.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because he would have been great for just like giving the picture of right across the curriculum areas there. Yeah, of because that surprises me about business. I would have thought, you know, you'd have had more that could have been pushed on. Okay, so yeah, so because we're dwindling, let me do some where we are, and yeah, sort of like wrapping up stuff. So here's something else that you might want to look at in the Padlet in terms of your prep. I'll just show you it so you can visualize it when you get on to the Padlet. I think, no, I don't want that. Come out of that. Escape from that. And that one. Sorry. Had it all set up, and then of course I use Teams more than Zoom. This is what I wanted you to see here. Okay. So have a look for that one. When you get on the Padlet, it's developing an assessment framework. It's quite user friendly actually. So this is for you. We wrote this especially for transition there. Yeah. So, and it takes you through, you know, sort of what to assess, and so this is basically sort of something that you can use for judging what is success. There's a little bit of a, if you wanted to do the mapping there, you can do. That one's construction as an example, but I mean, it looks a bit sort of like mind-boggling, but you can see sort of like the philosophy there, and then there's timescale. But we deliberately wrote these so that they were sort of like short and snappy. So it's only a couple of sides to get through there, and then the grid. Okay, so that's something else to look out for, and that might help you. Right, okay, so now I'm going to go back into, let's have a look. So we've done that. Right, so can you remember the hoo-ha? It's a lovely northern phrase, isn't it? That's around the numbers of students that actually moved on to T levels or transition, and that's come forward, hasn't it? It's come sort of like through everything that you've said here. So percentage of students that are going on to, I suppose really it's a max of 50, if I think from what you've been saying there. We should have had Wahid, what's he say, 20. Ros, that was you having 20. I was wondering if
I'm just checking how many have put forward to progress. I'll check back in a minute.
Yeah. So right, okay, Nelson and Co, 30 students they had, and 5 going on to T level. I'm glad he said that to begin with, Wahid. So that gives us an idea that, you know, you're getting lots of interest Debbie had half, didn't you, that were moving on? Yeah, but I suppose
Possibly, you know, less than half, I think, because I think there'll be one who I really don't think they're going to manage that T-level. You know, we're just setting them up to fail. So I think it would probably you know, at the 25%, I would say, you know, at the 1 possibly going forward, but the rest no.
Yeah. But that was interesting where he's 5 out of the 20 across both sides there, Accrington and Nelson and Cole. And I think for them, probably they'll be judging their success by their English and maths. Ros, if you're looking, we'll come back to you. Yeah, we'll still come back to you. So the other thing is about, Debbie, if you can persuade your SNT to action on your programme review, you know, it's the sort of questions that you're asking of yourself, really, for your programme review and what you want differently next year. Although I think probably the stress that you've been under, the stress as in, you know, not necessarily personal stress, but the programme, you know, that tension that's been in the programme has already influenced, hasn't it? The structure.
We are having a change of structure, as in management, and the person that's going to be sort of taking it on is going to be the kind of IT lead, but he's got HE hat on, BT level hat on, boot camps, etc., etc. So I would expect that person would then help support me and help developing a program, and also to make sure that I'm signposted to make sure that I've got all the paperwork in place, so then I can monitor properly. I can generate the data that we've got to do. So you know, we had Ofsted in January, so fingers crossed another 3 years, you know, and by then hopefully all the bits and pieces will be ironed out. But it's again, you know, on reflection myself, possibly I've got to change my mindset a bit, you know, but I'm finding that tough. You know, I've been teaching this particular way for such a long time and it's worked. I can't see why I should change it, because it works. You know, I've seen level ones progress through and then eventually get to university, if that's where they want to go, because I don't push for university every time, because for some of them it's just not the right progress route.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's really honest of you to say that, because the policy's changed and, you know, there's nothing that we can do about it, but that whole policy framework for at the department of where we're going with quals, and, you know, so that's changed. So that's really honest of you to say, I'm going to have to change. Yeah. One thing that might be helpful, here you go, and I'm showing you stuff today, but this one. So you might want to use this. And again, this is on the Padlet. You can see that's P431. I don't know why we've got that up. Hopefully it'll come through there. Yeah, here we go. So whatever review and evaluation, that's on the Padlet as well. So do go on, because it just might help you. And again, I mean, this looks like a long one, this. We usually only try and get them short and snappy, but there might be something that you could pick up from this just to help you have that conversation with your new senior team member. You know, and there's all the different areas there around recruitment, and obviously you don't want to look at the screen there, but get the reference point there. The program.
Thanks for that. Yes, I'll have a look at that one.
Okay, so
that also looks really useful just to do as general CPD and, you know, ongoing plan development for the next year. That looks like quite a solid document to use, Romy. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Sarah's back with us. Sarah, actually, I think you're back with us anyway. I saw she.
Apologies for that.
No, it's fine. So I just got onto programme review. How about Debbie's thinking about that for next year and putting forward, well, the end of this year and putting forward for next year. Ross says, you know, great, use it as you go along. but you could even use that to start with. So yeah, and it's on the Padlet for you. Right, let's move us on to, okay, right. So I don't know if you are aware, but there is a consultation, the department, and I've been part of that with various focus groups, as to whether to, the department are considering using the NTOs as the basis for qualifications, not one qualification that goes out to AOs to bid in for, but this is allowing AOs to produce a qualification that is based on the NTOs themselves. So if you have got strong views, the deadline for that is Thursday, the 6th of April, or even if you just want to have a look at it to see what's going on, that's useful. So the sorts of things which I found very encouraging that when I've been sitting in on the discussions with AOs was that they were thinking of qualifications that were around, that were project based, you know, all the sorts of things that allow you the flexibility. So just be aware of that. And obviously that would be for, depending on what the department thing that comes through from the consultation, that would be for 2025, yeah, for, yeah, 2025, 26. So just have a, yeah, be aware of that. So next thing, I know I'm not in full slide mode, but I'm going to flick about and then come back to this. So there are some face-to-face events if you would find those useful. This is around holistic delivery. That came up a couple of times today when you were talking about moving on into next year. So plenty of locations there. And Nick and his team will be in touch with you and make sure that everybody's aware of those. So this is around contextualization. And again, Sarah, that might be something that, you know, as a starting point that, you know, sort of like your team might be interested in. I know I've talked about the Padlet as we've gone through, but it's worth, if you've got 10 minutes to flick through and just to search by area. Now, I usually ask this at the end of every session and get people just to put something in the chat. So, and I ask you to answer just one of those questions. So, and it's a commitment to yourself, really. So either you can answer all three, even better. Who do you need to speak to? Yeah, first person that you need to speak to after going through what we've gone through, you know, today, after having this conversation. What's the first document that you need to read? And what's your first action going to be? So the commitment to yourself is in the chat. First person you need to speak to. First document you need to read. First action. Hopefully you'll be able to log off the third bullet. Let's see what we've got. Yeah. Roz, that's interesting. Yeah. Student voice questionnaire.
Well, I've just looked, got 50% currently who've put themselves forward to progress to the T level. One wants to go to do game design development instead, which is still a digital and it still sits in my area, but it's not a T level. So that could potentially seen as a non-achievement potentially for that young person. And then we've got 9 that haven't yet put forward what they would like to do. So there's further work that needs to be done. But part of the review process on the Padlet, if we're going to review the course, one aspect of that is the young people and, you know, what do they think of it? Why did they choose to come on that course? Do they want to do a T level? or what were their kind of thoughts behind it. And I just thought, yeah, that could be an interesting aspect to add in terms of if you're trying to improve the course for, you know, suitability. That's just a thought.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, right, okay, yeah. So Debbie's put one out last week, actually. So, yeah, good thinking, really, because obviously you want the best for them to get to, you know, to get on to where they want to be. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. We're early. I think you've been fab, actually. You know, with a small group, but hopefully you've found some little nuggets in there. And Sarah as well. Thanks for for offering your thoughts as we've gone along. And Rob, I know you've got a busy background. I can hear you're probably in either student or staff room, student room or staff room. So thanks for staying. Abby, could we just launch we'll have a poll at the end, and basically it's just, you know, sort of, did you get something out of this session? Basically, it's anonymous, but we do like to do this. And then if there is anything that you would like to follow up, we will come back to you.